Hello, this video is for the Barbershop Beauty Shop Blitz, which is a voter registration initiative being implemented in partnership between the NAACP and the NPHC. The Barbershop Beauty Shop Blitz, ultimately the initiative is for voter registration. It'll be held on Saturday, October 6th, and there will be approximately 40 different shops that we will be visiting. The key objective, obviously, is to register people to vote by October 6th. Ultimately, beyond that, we want to also encourage people to vote, and we want to provide voter information. When it comes to registering people to vote, this sounds silly, but one of the first things you want to do is make sure you establish some eye contact, or at least try to. If people can ignore you, trust me, they will. Also, one tip is to use the sign on the clipboard. Point to it in the event that individuals are under dryers, or if the TV's up too loud or the radio's up too loud. As you're saying, are you registered to vote, you can actually point at the clipboard. They get an idea of what that is. You should just simply ask, are they registered to vote? Are they willing to register? Some other questions may come up, i.e., is your address up to date? For very good reason. There's multiple reasons to fill out a card, so it's a good idea to just pose a couple of these questions to see if they need to register again. So in terms of registering people to vote, here's the card that you'll be giving out to people. This is a highlighted example. One of the things that I will actually offer as a recommendation, some of the cards that you will receive the day of will be highlighted. I will be providing highlighters, and I recommend that you highlight more cards. Highlighting the card helps you to quickly see what needs to be filled out, and so it'll help you when you actually have someone who wants to register. They can look at the highlighted areas. But secondly, when you review the cards, in which you should review the cards, it'll make it easier for you to review and make sure that things are filled out appropriately. Most of the things that we have highlighted on here are mandatory. There's a few of them that aren't, but these are the highlighted sections are the things that we want them to fill out. So let's start by going through this card. The very first question, are you a citizen? Obviously, you need to be a citizen of the United States to vote. Secondly, will you be 18 years of age on or before the election day? A person who is 17 right now could actually vote. A person's going to be 17 a month from now can vote. The question is, are they going to be 18 on the election day? So if their birthday is the election day, then they can go ahead and register right now, even though that they're 17. The next section that you see here is where it says check 1. There's a couple of reasons why someone would fill out the registration form. One, if they've never registered to vote before, of course they can click new registration. In the event that they had an address change, you want to encourage them to change their address here to make sure they're voting in the appropriate precinct and district, etc. Additionally, if you come across someone and you might as well ask them another question in regards to their driver's license, make sure that that's up to date as well. The reason why I mentioned that is we don't want any problems for any of our citizens who show up to a polling place, and if they're asked for identification or something of that nature, you want to make sure that things match up. You want to make sure that they live where they say they live, and all documents appropriately reflect that. In the event that there is a name change, a person could have recently gotten married. Again, you want that person to have the appropriate name that matches their identification, things of that nature, when they show up to the polling place, to ensure that they have no issues at the polling place. Last but not least, a party change. If a person chooses or wants to change their party, they're currently a Republican and they want to become a Democrat, then they would fill out this form so that they could register with a particular party. And likewise, if they want to change from a Democrat to a Republican or to an independent, you name it, this is how they would go about doing that. The next section we have here is Social Security. Although we highlighted and we asked for individuals to fill that out, it is not required. I repeat, it is not required. The reason why we ask people to fill this out is because having that Social Security number there will help the county clerk's office and the state to make sure that they identify the right person. In the event that anything else on here is illegible or they need to confirm, a social security number is very helpful with making sure that people are registered correctly. Date of birth, that is required. County, make sure that this says Jefferson County when they fill it out. Some people accidentally put in the U.S. of A. or or United States of America or something of that nature. We're looking for the county, not the country. So make sure it says Jefferson. More importantly, when you review these cards, if someone puts down like Oldham County or somewhere else where they live, please have them take their card to a county clerk's office in their county, because we won't be able to turn it in by our county. Very important. Home phone is not required, but we ask for it. It comes in handy with said offices in the event that they have to verify anything, they can make the phone call. You'll see here where there's a question that distinguishes the sex, if it's female or male registrant, and they have to fill that out, and primarily the state needs that because they provide reporting after each election regarding voter turnout based on sex. Obviously, you need a last name, first name, middle name. That is required. Address, you want to get where they live, not their P.O. box office. Reason why is where they live dictates what district they're in, dictate what officials they can actually elect and that they can vote for. So make sure that their address is accurate and it's where they live, not a reflection of where their P.O. box is. Apartment number, if that's available, city, zip. The next section we have here is party registration. You want to make sure that they fill this out. If they want to register as a Democrat or Republican, they can check either box. If they want to be an independent, they can check other and just write in independent. However, if there's a separate party or a different party, libertarian, something of that nature, they can check other and put something there as well. Word to the wise, if anyone asks which party, you are not at liberty, if you're doing this on behalf of the NAACP, and I'm pretty sure that all Greek letter organizations are non-partisan as well. But we are not at liberty to tell anyone that, or inform anyone or guide and direct anyone to a certain party. That is against our tax status, actually. So there's a way of helping people because they may not be familiar with political parties, and so they want to make sure they pick one. Here's how you help them. You tell them in this way, if they believe in the strategies, political ideology, and philosophies of Barack Obama, well, Barack Obama is a Democrat, and if you want to align with the Democratic Party or with, the thoughts of Barack Obama, the Democratic Party might be ideal for you. But also tell them in contrast, in the event that you support political leaders such as Donald J. Trump or Mitch McConnell, and you believe in those same philosophies, political philosophies and ideologies, those individuals are Republican and they can register as a Republican to align with those values. But I repeat, do not tell them what party to register. Give them the choice, and the choice is theirs. Last but not least, make sure that they sign this and that they date that. We cannot turn these in, or they will not be processed, rather, if they are not signed and dated. You'll notice up under there, there's witnessed by. The reason why that is there is in the event that you have a person who cannot sign the card, maybe you filled the card out for them, either due to a disability or due to an injury with their hand, something of that nature. At that moment, a person can actually make a mark. And if they make a mark, you can date it for them, but that has to be witnessed by at least 2 people. So just find some other people on your team, make sure you fill out the witness by, make sure that the date is filled in, and that's exactly what that is for. Only in the event that they have to make a mark. So, although we're out there registering people to vote, there's a lot of questions that come about. You'll actually come across more questions than you actually probably will register people to vote. Questions will come about like, I just moved, so where do I vote? there's websites for that can help with some of these questions. So there's places where you can look up your polling place. If they have a different driver's license address, you should inform them. Make sure that they update that so they have no problem at the polls. Can they change their party affiliation? We just showed you right there in the card how they do that. Where can they get an absentee ballot? Maybe they're going to be out of town. Maybe they have a family member that's a student or someone who's going overseas. How do they fill out an absentee ballot? There's ways of answering that. They think they're registered. They're not sure if they're registered. They registered a long time ago, but they can't remember if they registered in this county or not. They don't know if they're registered or not. You can go to websites. There's locations where you can check to see if you are registered. And also online, you can register online if they ask about registration online, because maybe they want someone else to, get registered and they want to give them the information, or instead of taking a card with them somewhere, you can redirect them to a website. These websites would be as follows. The websites where you can get a great deal of information, one of them is going to be our local branch in aacplou.org. I'll be showing you that shortly. There's also govotekentucky.com. It's one of the newer sites. There's the elections.jeffersoncountyclerk.org, which also has an abundance of information. But the thing about this is you're probably making a note of yourself. How am I going to remember these websites, and how do I share these websites easily? One of the things that you'll be receiving is the card, just a handout. So in the event that anybody asks any questions, you can give them this card, and you'll notice that at least two of the websites on there, the ones that are preferred, the local branch site, as well as the county clerk's office site at the bottom. You hand that out, and if they have questions, they can reach out to us via phone. Our phone number is on there for the Louisville branch. It's one thing to hand out a card, but one of the things I want you to do is I encourage you to go check these sites out so that you can speak to them in the event that someone actually has those questions. So, for example, what we can do here, I would like to bring over this website that we can see. This is the NAACP website for the Louisville branch. There is a section called Voting Info. If you go here to Voting Info, one of the first things that you'll notice is there's a place where you can register online. We encourage you to direct people who want to register online to come to our page. The reason why is they get to fill out this information, and we capture that, and then we forward them on to the state site so that they can get registered. The reason why we like to collect information is so that we can leverage that information for get out the vote phone calls later, to make sure that they go out to vote, make sure they understand when the election day is, and also to ask if they need a ride to the polls. More importantly, other things that you can find here, if they want to see their own sample ballot, we direct people there to the county clerk's page. We also provide information if they're looking for their polling place. They can come here, and we make sure we redirect them there. If they want to have printouts of the actual registration card, if they want to send one, fill one out and send it in, they can do that from here as well. Something else, in the event that you come across someone who cannot vote, they claim they cannot vote because they are in fact a felony. Let me first say that if you come across anyone in that situation, do not press them to vote anyhow, because they're not allowed to vote, and that's illegal for felonies or for felons to attempt to register outright. They have to have their rights restored. There's an application process for that, and we provide information in regards to that. And I want to take the time to actually note that the NAACP, amongst other organizations here in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, have been fighting for decades and will continue to fight until all citizens have their rights to actually vote. I'll leave that there. Additional information within here, if anyone's interested in signing up and helping out and volunteering, things of that nature, here's a generic form here for that information. GoVoteKentucky.com. It's one of the newer sites, and I actually do like it. You can register online. You can review your registration and make sure that that's going over well. If you want to know where you're voting, they provide the voting location here, sample ballots, things of that nature. One thing that I do love about this site is that it'll tell you very upfront when the deadline is, and it'll also remind you when the election day is. Last but definitely not least, there is the site for Jefferson County. You can find a great deal of information here. Again, we're all redirecting and sharing some of the same information. You'll see here, where do I vote, how to register to vote online. This is probably one of the quicker versus the other Go Vote Kentucky site. You can also from here figure out, you can change your address, you can change your name. A lot of great information here. So for those sites, what I will say is here, if anybody has any questions, feel free to hand out this card and direct them to those websites so they can get some of those questions answered. Again, one of our objectives is to provide voter information as well, voter education. So we just talked about some of the questions that come about, how to address some of those questions, but there's a couple of pitfalls, and I want to make sure that we're very clear on some of these things to make sure that we don't get in any trouble and make sure that we're as effective as possible. There's a list of things of what not to do. One of them, we kind of spoke to it in terms of partisanship. We're nonpartisan, but we also cannot endorse any candidate. Again, we have to be very careful with that. If we're found endorsing candidates, it's one thing if you personally endorse a candidate, but if you're going out on behalf of the NAACP or on behalf of your fraternity or sorority, by endorsing a candidate, that can be seen as your organization endorsing a candidate. By all means, when you're doing this work, do not endorse any candidates. That will actually have a negative impact on our tax status. Do not recommend a political party. We spoke about that earlier. Do not argue. By all means, try to refrain from arguing about very specific political stances. If someone asks you what your views are on abolishing ICE, please try to refrain because your key objective is to register people to vote. If someone asks you questions and want to get your feel about the affordable health care, please stay away from that and expressing anything, because you're actually at this moment being a reflection of the organizations you're going out and volunteering for. So please don't get into any arguments in regards to a political stance, because that's not the objective. The objective is to register people to vote. In short, don't argue, period. If someone says, hey, I don't vote because of religious reasons or something of that nature, say thank you for your time and move on, and go to the next person. In short, you shouldn't have to argue with anyone, and any energy put towards that is better used towards picking up, going to the next person, and possibly registering someone to vote. There's going to be some materials that you need on October 6th. This will consist of voter registration cards, obviously. You're going to get some clipboards. We do want our clipboards back. Pins. You'll be provided pins. You're going to be provided highlighters. As I repeat, we're going to give you highlighters just so you can highlight more cards in the event that you need to have, in the event that you go through some of the cards which are already highlighted. So you'll be given that. You'll also be given info cards that you can hand out to help answer questions. Last but not least, you're going to be provided a map of your team's shops, the sites that you're going to be going to. Speaking of that, there's roughly about 40 barbershops that we're going to. So there's a question of, how do I know which one we're going to? Who's on my team? What team am I on? Which of these sites am I going to? Those are all very, very good questions. And to answer that question, I'd like to also come back to the websites here. You're going to get an email in which you come to the same site in which you signed up for this opportunity. On the page, the NAACP page for NPHC, if you scroll down, you're going to see a section that says Team Maps. So, for example, you may be on Team 1. If you click on Team 1 in the map, you are ultimately going to see, eventually, a map that identifies which locations are yours. If you click on one of these, it'll give you the address of each of the locations. So if you're on team 1, here's how you find your locations. What I do recommend is that at least one person on your team may be designated to drive, unless you all want to drive different cars. But another person could serve as the navigator. And what I strongly advise is that you plot out, use Google Maps. If you're tech savvy, you can do this from your phone. Use Google Maps to identify the location and travel into your destination. All right. And likewise, let's say you're on team 5. You would click on team 5. And as you can see here, this map, you can zoom out, you can zoom in. You'll see a handful of locations. You click here, it'll tell you what shops you're going to. Now, I will say everybody does not have the same number of shops. Some teams have 3, some teams have 6. As you can tell, some people may get carried away. Some of these locations are literally in the same complex. So don't get caught up too much on the location or how many shops you have. Additionally, some teams have shops that are very spread out because there's some shops further out in the distance. So that kind of gives explanation of why some teams may have more shops than the other. If you take a look at some of these maps, you'll definitely understand why. One of the things that I'm going to be doing within this is I am going to be sending out an email that to your very specific team, saying who is on your team, and also you'll be able to go to the website, which I'll provide the link to as well in the email, so that you can go look up which team or which map is designated for your team. With that being said, look forward for an email, and let's get people registered to vote. Thank you very much, and we'll see you out in the field.